Let's get to Rick Santelli in Chicago with a critique, it says, Rick, of high-frequency trading after that big plunge we saw yesterday.
I think it's going to be a critical critique. And before we get to our guest, Joe Saluzzi, I want to read one of the definitions of regulatory capture that's online. Please put it on the screen. Regulatory capture occurs when a regulatory agency created to act in the public interest instead advances the commercial or special concerns of interest groups that dominate the industry or sector it is charged with regulating. Seriously, folks, does that not sound like it was written for HFT? Joe Saluzzi, welcome. Thanks for being my guest today.
Rick, great to see you.
Listen, you just heard me read that definition, but, you know, in your words as an expert, I would like you to hit all the issues regarding yesterday's kind of flash crash regarding, you know, how regulators may or may not affect the situation in the future, how exchanges' favorite customers are HFT. Do you see this stuff changing anytime soon?
No, Rick, unfortunately, yesterday was just another example. It was a mini example of the flash crash that we had a couple of years ago. What's happening now is that we've got all of these diverse pools of liquidity, which are real shallow. There's over 50 market centers out there, all owned by for-profit organizations, like you mentioned. So what happens is these liquidity centers get pierced easily because there's all different types of, we used to have a market with deep, diverse pools of liquidity, different types of investors. Now it's pretty much the same type of trader coming in there, lots of scalpers who are dominating this. Unfortunately, yesterday will happen again, and the tweet was just happened to be the cause of it. It doesn't matter. We're seeing these flash crashes constantly, and it's due to the structure. People are saying, oh, it's not due to the structure. There is no doubt in our mind that the market structure that we've developed over the last 15 years, which was basically started by the SEC in the mid-90s, has created this type of situation.
See, now the issue I see is, I don't always like to look to government and regulators and regulation to fix issues. So tell me if I'm naive. If people on Main Street and a lot of traditional traders, specifically in equities, avoid the marketplace because they think it is a high-speed casino and they don't have a fair chance, will that, in a free market society, force changes, or am I being naive? No,
unfortunately, Rick, it's not, because what happens is the exchanges are getting their volume from other players. They're still making their money. Stock exchanges make them, they should be called data exchanges now. They don't make their money from stock transactions. Most of it's coming from market data services. So the retail and institutional investor have been drowned out by the bigger players, which are the exchanges' bread and butter, which happens to be the high-frequency traders. In fact, only 14% of the actual order flow is coming from institutions now, which makes you wonder, where's it all coming from? It's this fictitious, we say fictitious, but it's volume that's fickle. It comes and goes, and yesterday, again, was a perfect example of market makers, as they're called nowadays, who are now proprietary traders competing with customer order flow. That first drop that you saw yesterday was most likely caused by market makers seeing the news and getting ahead of the customer flow. They're not trading for customers anymore. They're trading for proprietary, for their own trading systems. Here's where we went wrong. We need that shock absorber, that inventory system that we used to have with market makers and specialists. You have to bring that back, and you have to encourage real liquidity back into the system.
All right, I'm going to ask you one final question. We're out of time, and this is a biggie. Do you think the world was better off before all these exchanges went public, when they were non-profit organizations? Maybe much of this wouldn't have happened. Am I right or am I wrong,
There's
Joe?
absolutely no doubt, Rick. We were much better off when they were mutual organizations, when they didn't have the conflicts of interest, when exchanges weren't being fined millions of dollars by the SEC because of the shenanigans that are going on out there. No question about it.
Joe, you've been a great guest. Thank you. I want you to come back as you find out more information about yesterday about 1:05 Eastern.
Will do.
Carl,
Thanks,
back
Rick.
to you.